Listen, son, to all the sons out there. You can be anything you want to be. Keep God first and love yourself, love your family, and chase your dreams. Welcome to the Listen, Son podcast.
All right. Now, we know we got some good heavy hitters and my dad, Uncle Rick, Money, and myself, but we're going to add another one today. And, you know, it's in high school and just throughout the journey so far, her college and professional career, she still has been making noise. We welcome Dezerea Bryant here to the Listen Son podcast. Nice to see you, Des.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah. So yes, we welcome Des, and then we got my dad. I see you with the yellick on. Go ahead, Boo.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Rick, nice to see you.
Hey.
Boy, Money, how we living? Nice to see you, bro. So, like always, man, just continue to, keep following us. Continue to hear these stories, and just continue to grow the platform. We would love it. Continue to like, share, subscribe. But keep following up on the people that we have on the podcast, man. It's just one big family. And we just cannot thank, Dezerea enough for taking this time out to be here with us. So without further ado, we got to get right into it because time is money right now. So, Pops, go ahead, man. Start us off.
Yes, I want to thank you for joining the Listen Son podcast today. This is special to me because you're like a daughter, Tech alumni. Used to watch you run. I was there for all the sports activities. The people that don't know, it's about you, but your brothers used to play. So I'm familiar with the family. And I also want to congratulate you for all your accolades. You still have records, from my understanding, here in the state that hasn't been broken yet. So I just want to let you know I've been practicing. I think I'm coming out of retirement. But a question, like we asked some of the athletes, when were you introduced to sports, and what sport was it? Was it track or was it something else? And how did that come to happen?
Yeah, so I started sports at the age of, I think I was like 10 going on 11, and I pretty much grew up in a family where all of my brothers, they played football and basketball and I was the one who didn't do anything. So my dad was like, yeah, we have to, get you in some type of sport and, because you got too much time on your hands. So my parents actually, the reason I got into track was because I used to race all the little kids on the block in the neighborhood, just right in the street. And I would literally beat every last one of them. So my dad was like, okay, this little girl is fast. Yeah. So one day at my brother's football game, it was just random. It was like this random man walking around, the park yelling for a 10-year-old girl. If anybody know of a 10-year-old girl that was fast, and my dad was at the time coaching my brothers and all of them. So he overheard the man saying, like, they're looking for a 10-year-old girl that can run. So after the football game, my dad pretty much just went up to the man and introduced me and was like, yeah, like, I have a 10-year-old girl that's fast. She raced all the kids in the neighborhood and all that. So that's pretty much how it got started at the park at my brother's football game. And I just remember the man, he was pretty much like bragging on his daughter, like, yeah, my little girl, she's 11 years old and she's like the fastest in the nation and all this. My dad like, oh, okay. So first day of practice, I was like smoking her, and they were just like, wait, who is this girl? and my dad was like, yeah, I told you she was fast. So I just stuck with it. I pretty much just stuck with it. I seen I was fast. It was my first time ever running track, my first year ever running track. I made it to nationals, like the AAU, like junior nationals. And I placed, I think I placed like 7th in the 100 and like 5th in the 200, but it was like from all the 10, 11-year-olds in the country. So I'm just like, okay, I'm kind of good. So, that kind of motivated me to stick with it. And I didn't want to be the only one not having nothing to do during the summer. So I pretty much just stuck with it.
Any role models growing up? Who did you look up to or influence you?
Uh, Funny thing is, I was always just pretty much caught up with, the here and now. I never really, as a kid, I just ran. I wasn't thinking like long term. I wasn't thinking that like, oh, I'm going to college for this. Like that wasn't, it was just nothing really on my mind about that. I was just out there pretty much having fun. I didn't start realizing how good I actually was until maybe like my junior year in high school when I got my first college letter. And I'm like, oh shoot, like this is real. My parents were crying and stuff, and they're just like, we just never thought it would go this far. I didn't either. So I didn't really look up to anybody as far as like on the track side of things. But my parents, they play a huge part of everything that I've done. They pretty much supported me the whole time. We didn't grow up with a lot of money, but they found a way to send me to like the competitions out of town, and I knew they didn't have the money, but they made a way for me to keep doing it and stick with it. So I would say, if I would have to say somebody growing up, I would say my parents, because they were the ones who kind of guided and supported me throughout the whole thing.
Before I pass it on, you're not the only one. I just want you to know this. Anybody that ever hung out here and ate food and drank, I said I wasn't going to mention it, but
Yeah.
I kept a calculation. So if you ever made it big, you got to pay me. You got to pay me back. So you're on your way. So so when Mr. Bond send you that bill, you'll know where it's
I know
where it
it's from. All right,
where it's from.
I'm wondering too if we should shout out the guy that was walking around the stadium looking for a 17-year-old. But if we do that, then we gotta blame the girl that you kind of let happen. So
it was actually interesting. It was funny because the way he was bragging on, just like, oh shoot, my dad was like, Dad, you got a big day, the night before practice. He like, you got a big day tomorrow. I'm just like, okay, like. And it was just it was fun though. It was fun.
Was that league that the game, was that NCSL? Did your brothers play NCSL too, like with me and Money, or what league was that one?
I don't know. I just know it was a little league football team.
Yeah,
They played. I don't even know.
I think we played against your brothers when they played for the Lions. NCSL.
It probably was. I know they
so,
were. Yeah, because all of them played in the same league, so it probably was the same thing. Yeah.
So definitely big ups to your parents, man. I know them personally, so I know they're lovely people. So, Money, go ahead, man.
All right. Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on here. Well, it's our second woman on here. So yeah, it's a pleasure. So thank you for being on here with us.
No problem.
But yeah, I'm just jumping to the questions with you. I like Uncle Mike said, like he said, you did a lot of noise in the city. Like everybody knew who you was. So, like track came up, they knew who you was. But like, can you like, since you had like a lot of success and everything, can you like talk about like how did that impact your life, and just like also because you had a big award. What was it? I think it was you was nominated for Athlete of the Decade, I believe. Can you talk about that, and just what did that take away from you? Like, how did that get you going? So
yeah. So pretty much, just growing up in the environment that I grew up, I was always very competitive with my brothers. My older brothers, I could never beat them. And it was just something that ate at me all the time. We would race for money and I would lose every single time. So I think, it's really such a blessing to, be where I am now and have had the success that I've had. No one thought that it would be like this, and just looking back on it all, I'm just so grateful that I stuck with it. I'm grateful that, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of, talent in the inner city, but you don't see a lot of people sticking with it. You don't see a lot of people, you have a lot of athletes, you have a lot of distractions in that inner city, and to be the one to stick with it and be the one to like have enough discipline and focus to carry that thing through, and not even knowing where it would take me. But I'm definitely blessed, and I'm definitely grateful that I can consider myself an example for people who have grown up in that environment or are growing up in that environment. You don't see a lot of opportunities there. So I am grateful that I can be that, person. I can be that kind of like role model of kids in the inner city, and to be nominated for the athlete of the decade. Man, it's big, and it honestly, it came out of nowhere. I had no idea about this. I think my dad mentioned it, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I had no idea that they were doing that. But it's a pleasure, and I'm definitely grateful, and I'm grateful for you guys for doing this, because it is a lot of help that is needed in the inner city, a lot of people that need guidance. And, this is just an awesome like platform that you are using to get the message to people, to kids that, so I'm definitely appreciative of you guys for doing this. I mean, it's amazing. And, I'm grateful that I'm on here to even express or encourage other people, because that's pretty much what I do and what I live for, because I know the struggle, and I know how hard it is, and I know, the different obstacles and stuff that you have to get over living in inner city and trying to come out of the inner city. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said all that. That's a lot of people need to hear that, because they don't really get to see like, oh, like it's some people like us that made it or went through that same thing. So I'm glad you mentioned all that. That's good.
Yeah.
But like also, so like me and Mike, we went through that process with like basketball and football.
Yeah.
And just as males, like me and him as being males, but as a female, can you let us know like how is it for you for like your recruitment and just getting to where you was at now? Like how did all that get to there? Like, from like the time from being AAU to high school and to just get to the level you at right now.
Okay. So starting off in AAU, I was blessed to be able to be a part of I think the Milwaukee Mustangs. It's a summer club, and it's a whole bunch of younger. I think the age range is like from like 6 through like 18. And I was just grateful that I had a coach that was literally there for me through it all. So I pretty much started, and getting to high school, I knew I still wanted to run track. It wasn't over. So the coach that I was running for AU, he ended up coaching at Bradley Tech. And that's how I ended up at Bradley Tech, because I wanted to stay under his coaching. My mom was not for me at all going to Bradley Tech. She was against it. She was like, Des, you're making the worst mistakes. She's like, you can still run for Coach Ray on an AAU level, but I just don't think Tech is the right academic school. I don't think Tech is just the right school for you. I had never been to a public school. Like growing up, my mom put me into, I went to private schools through elementary and also middle school. So I was hyped. I'm like, okay, this is my first chance to, get to go to a public school and all this. So I literally had to convince her to let me go to Bradley Tech. I'm just like, Mom, I just really, I was already going up to Tech as a middle school middle schooler, practicing with the high school kids because my coach was the coach there. So I'm just like telling her, like, I made all these friends and, I know a lot of people and I'll be under Coach Ray and all that. And my dad, he had to convince her too. And she was just like, okay, like if this is what you want to do, then go ahead. So that was pretty much how I got to Bradley Tech. And the funny thing is, I think after like a year or so, he stepped down as the coach or got fired or something as the coach. So I was just there by myself once again. And so going from high school to college, like I said earlier, I got my first college letter I think my first letter was from UCLA. And it was like this handwritten letter and all of this. So I'm just screaming. I'm just like so hyped. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to UCLA, And Mom like, just calm down. It's just a letter. You got to, finish your next 2 years off. So with the recruiting process, from going to from high school to college, I knew that I wanted to go to a school that was kind of family oriented. I'm really big on family. I love my family. I love family environments. So I ended up picking Clemson to go to out of high school. And I met the coach from Clemson when I was, I think, 16 or 17. I had made like a world junior team and I went to Canada with the USA junior team and ran for the USA junior team. And I met him through that USA team. One of his athletes was running in the 200 and she ended up winning the gold medal at the world juniors competition in Canada. And I just remember him, coming at me and was just like, I congratulated him, like, congratulations on, your girl winning the 200. And he just pointed to his Clemson paw and was like, yeah, you're going to be next. And I'm just like, what? Like me? Like I had never, even thought that far ahead. So I'm just like calling my dad and, he said I'm going to be next, So once the recruiting process came around, they were pretty high on my list just because I had already met him and I already connected with him and I already connected to the girl that he had. And, he came down to visit and did like his presentation, the home visit and all that. And I was pretty much sold on Clemson. Like, I'm going to Clemson. That's it. Nobody else need to call me. This is it. My family felt good about it. So I'm just like, okay, yeah. So getting to Clemson, it was definitely a shocker as far as academics, even sports. Everything was much harder than what I expected it to be. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Like I'm fast. Like not knowing how fast these girls really are. I'm just like, I'm fast too. It was a shocker. I literally cried every day, every single day in practice, like just everything, just crying because I'm like, this is really, really hard, And I remember struggling academically, and I remember calling my mom like, yeah, I'm struggling. She's like, I told you Tech wasn't gonna prepare you for nothing. I'm just like, all right, don't be throwing this in my face. Like, you did tell me, you right. And what I realized was Tech really didn't prepare me at all academically. I mean, it got me ready athletically, but as far as academically, I struggled. I really, really struggled. I literally had to tutor. I had tutoring every day. I had to be in tutoring 10 hours a week on top of training. And then I also had to do other academic, like meeting with the professors. And it was just a lot. It was definitely a culture shock. But as far as, like, once I got to college, my goal became, like, I do want to be a professional. Like, I want to be a professional. So that was pretty much my goal. To be honest, I was really only worried about, I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to do what I need to do to be a professional. So in that case, I had to get my academics right. Like I had to be eligible to race. If I'm not eligible, then there's no way I can make it. So that was pretty much my whole thing. Like I want to be a professional athlete. And once it happened, it was still like a disbelief, like, dang, like I really did it. And, you know, I had a lot of people telling me like, oh, like you can't, you know, you're too short. I am the shortest professional track athlete it is right now as a professional. And a lot of, no matter how fast I ran, a lot of companies like shoe sponsors, they were looking at my height. So although I was a 2-time NCAA champion, I was this and that, it's a lot of politics behind it as well. They like, I won NCAAs twice. I was, at that time that I won, I was the NCAA win legal record holder. And they weren't sold. They were just like, I don't know. She's only 5 feet. You know, I don't think she'll be able to, you know, get it done on this level. And before that, I had no idea that being short was a thing. Like growing up, I just ran. I never thought like, oh, height made a difference. I'm just like, as long as I'm winning, as long as I'm running fast, it shouldn't be a problem. But it was. I had to pretty much fight my way through their opinions of, oh, you're just too short, and get it on my own. So that's pretty much how I became like what I am now. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
No, it definitely.
Okay.
And you gave us a little bit more than what we expected. So hey,
Okay.
I applaud it. But yeah, I'm gonna go on here. I'm past because you just doing good. So I'm just going past.
Wow.
Okay.
Before we go to Uncle Rick, that's crazy. I want 2 things, 2 to 3 things before we go to Uncle Rick, because he got some good stuff for you. First off, shout out. I know you probably want to shout out your girls that you went through the journey with, and I know that's really important to
Yes.
have your group that you want to go up with, and y'all all did go to different schools and stuff like that. So I know that was good. So you know, shout out to them. We did.
Yes.
And then going back to the education component, I don't know, Money, if you went through a little bit of that, but you went, you know, TOSA system. So, but I know you talked about, you know, the adjustment there a couple episodes back, but I too had to start out in remedial courses where you took math and English for the credit, but it didn't count towards your GPA and everything like that. So I guess your mom did have a point. But I think it's bigger than just tech. I think it was the entire public school system that it was programs outside of, you know, in the community that we could have, you know, we didn't know about, programs like taking credits before you even get to college to, you know, do things like that to save money. So I think it's a lot that you're talking about right now that a lot of student athletes and just students in general could be educated about, because it is important. And then I wanted to touch on, I know little small guys like Spud Webb, Nate Robinson. You know, if you little and you're a male, it kind of is, you get endorsements and stuff, praise for that. But you telling me as a young lady, it's kind of work against you, huh?
Oh yeah. And me being me, I literally had no idea that my height, like I had no idea that I knew I was short, but I just didn't feel that much shorter than everybody else. Like I never used that as like, oh, like I'm too short. Like I never even thought of that. But you know, they did, and they brought that to my attention. I'm like, I guess I am the shortest one. I guess I never really noticed. But okay, if I'm still running, you know, as fast as everybody else, then what is the problem? You know, but in their mind, it's just like, you know, what we want to see what you can do first, and then we'll, you know, support you. So
Wow.
that's kind of how it was.
You hear about stories of ladies dealing with stuff that men don't have to deal with, and this, I think this is a fair example. But go ahead, Uncle Rick, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
Good afternoon, Desiree. I'm gonna put my
What's up?
hands in prayer mode because my prayers definitely go out to you. Because when I read up and from where you've been to where you are now,
Yes.
God has definitely been in your corner. He's
Oh, yeah.
been there. That's some toughness. You are a tough young lady
I appreciate
in
it.
more ways than one. And thank you for being an inspiration to a lot of young girls that's still running track, because you're that link. They give them someone to look up to just say, no matter how tall you are, where you come from, inner city, where you can run. If you can make it, you can go. I had a daughter that could run fast. I don't know what, but she got too pretty and she didn't want to sweat with her hair to go down. I'm like, girl, you the fastest thing in the neighborhood. But anyway, she was young. I wish she could have hooked up with you and ran like you did. But on to my questions. My questions basically are directed towards your first 2 years at Clemson, and later on I asked you another one about Kentucky. But being the first graduate of out of 11 kids, I take it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then you arrived at Clemson in 2011. All I know is, like most freshmen, we all struggle. I went to college. I struggled my first year. Then you went by yourself. So hey, you forgot to mention that you did get a 3.5, didn't you? When it's
Yeah.
all said and done. See there?
Eventually.
That's yeah. Hey, that's great inspiration to everyone. So on to my questions. Having all the large Olympic size aspirations on your shoulders, and then you had your personal issues going on. I know also being the first ACC woman to sweep all short sprints, indoor and outdoor. Tell me,
Yeah.
what are you going through? That's a lot to take in. I see movie and book deals here. I mean, that's just me. I just see that in you. But tell me your story. Your story could be told beyond our podcast, but thank you for taking out your afternoon and interviewing with us.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, I really struggled, with the practices once I finally got to Clemson, and everything was just way harder than what it was in high school. You got, in high school, I mean, I was the fastest sprinter that we had, and I really didn't have competition that's like right up on me, but then I go to college, and now going from being in front of the line and now in practice, I'm like way behind. I'm just like, hold on, I'm not used to this. So it definitely took some adjusting. It took a lot of adjusting. It took a lot of my coach encouraging me to keep going. He was telling me this your freshman year. Usually people take a year to adjust and all of that. But as far as the ACC indoor outdoor champion, honestly, indoor, I was the second best on my team going into indoor season. We had another girl that was blazing up the track, and I was just trying to work on getting through practices and all of that. So my first ACC indoor championship was I won the 60-meter dash. So the backstory to that, that was literally a couple days after I found out my brother died. So I found out my brother died the week of the championships, and my dad was like, we're gonna have a funeral, this weekend. So just right after your races, just have them fly you from Boston to Milwaukee so you can go to the funeral. And at that point, I'm just like, honestly, I don't know if I want to go. Like, I just want to come home and be with my family and all of that. And my coaches, they were very understanding. They were like, if you need to do this, then, just go home. But then I'm like, this is my first championship, let me just go, and I'll just, they already booked my flight from Boston to Wisconsin. So I'll just do it that way. So going into that meet, I had not practiced that whole week. I had a lot on my mind. I was still hurt, still crying. So honestly, I went into that race not thinking anything of it. I'm just like, whatever happens, happens. I'm not, my mind is somewhere else. And then the race started, and I'm like, wait, I'm actually winning, and then I win the 60, and I'm just like, whoa, like, what just happened? And I just remember my coach coming up to me, telling me yo, if you want to be the MVP of the track meet, you have to win the 200 as well. So I'm just like, okay, bet. And then I ended up winning the 200. Unexpected, like I wasn't expected to win. The girl that was ahead of me, she had been beating my butt all season. It was terrible. She was smoking me. And I don't know what got into me. I just went and I ran, and, the rest was pretty much, history. I won the indoor 60, 200, and then come outdoor, I won the 100 and the 200. So that was kind of like the backstory to how it started. So.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing that special story with us. Now I'll pass it on to Mike, I believe. Mike Bond Jr.
Thanks, Uncle Rick. Man, you think you know a person, but it's a lot of stuff you don't know that's been
Right.
talked about. Man, this is crazy. So to bring this kind of full circle, first let's shout out your dad. To tell the people who your pops is.
Yep.
Tell him say his name so we know.
Steve Jenkins.
There we
Daddy.
go. All right. So I got to see how, I remember the van. I remember him transporting Trey and June in that van. And personally, I think June was one of the best receivers that I saw in the city conference. Trey was definitely one of the best linebackers, that I seen, right behind me. But I just feel like it's sometimes nurturement and mentorship that misses with males where we come from.
Yes.
Knowing that those guys had talent, what do you think could have been done more for your brothers that had the talent, but get just caught up in the crab in the barrel place like, Milwaukee, or just don't have that extra push that you probably, know you had or whatever. So.
Yeah. So all of my brothers were pretty talented. My dad started them off and, encouraged them to, it was pretty much sports was what it was in our family. My dad was the one who, kind of put it together. I mean, he was the coach for the Little League for as long as he could be. And then I think what could have been done more on their behalf, I would say, I think once my parents kind of separated, that kind of became like a thing. Like, the father is out of the house, so you don't get that day-to-day, like you said, that day-to-day like mentorship and that guidance and all that. So just a lot of stuff the door was open for a lot of stuff to happen. The difference with me, I just internalized a lot of stuff, and I use track as an outlet. I think for my brothers, they weren't really like, after, I think once they got to high school, the fire of, football and pushing themselves and all that kind of died down a little bit. I mean, June was very, very good.
Yes.
I mean, he just couldn't get his grades together. So that was a factor that, played a part in his deal. And then also the last game of the season, I remember, I was actually just telling my husband about this, the last game of the season when he broke his leg. I think that kind of turned away a lot of the college recruitment that were trying to recruit him. So, I mean, it's just everybody take their own paths, and you can only do so much guiding. You can only do so much mentorship and all that. Ultimately, people are going to, make their own decisions and all that. But I definitely think it is important to have that male figure, especially for men. It's hard for women to be that for raising a man, So I definitely think that is important, and it plays a huge factor in the upbringing of men.
Okay. Thank you for giving that input from an outside perspective, but actually like a personal perspective, because you've seen it and live with them. So, and we had no business playing Oconto Falls where June broke his leg. So I still hate that game. We had no business being out there. I think he scored on the play too. He broke his leg. So that's crazy. But yeah, that stupid game. But we're gonna go back to Uncle Rick. Keep it going.
Yes, my final question for you, Des, is what was going through your mind your sophomore year? 9-time All-American, 9-time ACC champion, becoming perhaps the most decorated athlete in school history. Then you left. That had to be rough because what you were going through. So go ahead and share that with us.
I think so. My sophomore year, I honestly went into the year thinking I just want to be, a little bit better than what I was as a freshman. As a freshman, my life was kind of all over the place as far as, getting adjusted to college life, on top of all the other stuff I had to deal with. So my main goal going into, my sophomore year was just, just be better than what you were last year. Just work hard and, just do the things a little bit better that you didn't do the first time. It's another opportunity. But as far as me leaving, man, it was just a lot going on with the coaching staff at Clemson. They had fired all of the staff. And one thing about me, like I said earlier, like once I create a bond with a coach or with somebody, I want to continue with that person. That's kind of how I did as, training as a kid with my AAU coach. And that's kind of what I had at Clemson, like a father figure away from home. So I didn't want that to end. So when he got fired, I'm just like, oh no, I got to go wherever he's going. And he ended up picking Kentucky. And I'm just like, honey, I've been trying to get away from the cold. I've been trying to get away from the snow. And you don't bring me back to Kentucky. I was not happy. I wasn't happy at all. I'm just like, why Kentucky? Like, I had never even been to Kentucky. So I just started Googling, like, Kentucky. Horses started popping up. I'm like, where are we going? Like, what? So that was interesting. And I was really, like, Clemson was my school. I love that school. Like, that was my choice. Kentucky was pretty much like, okay, this is going to be better for my career. But, I mean, it was cool.
Your life is full of changes, lots of changes, but you're succeeding all through all those changes, and that's great.
Yeah, Des. I gotta agree with the both of you. June, I watched him play. He was talented. June was talented. I used to love to see the Tech team play, but June just, oh man, I knew he was gonna go far. He had the skills. He really did.
Yeah.
Steve, your dad, myself, Rick, we coached the young men. We worked our jobs, but we made sure we coached the young men to try to keep them out of the inner city, distractions, to keep them focused, try to teach them discipline. And we really took pride in that, And I know your dad did too, because I seen him out there. So with that being said, I know what our personal gratification was coaching these young men. And I know that you're coaching. So what led you to that, and what can you, what have you told your athletes?
Yeah, so I was a volunteer coach at Tennessee for 2 years, and it's just interesting to see younger athletes come in and try to play the same games that you did, and it's like, honey, I've been there, I've done that.
Right.
So it's just interesting to see the up and coming, athletes. Just one thing I like to express to the kids, well, they're kids, but the college kids, pretty much, like, you have to want it more than I want it for you. I can only do so much. Like, I can only, and I'll be there. I'll be the resource that you need. Like, whatever you need a diet plan, I'll do that. Multiple occasions where there were female athletes that, needed to lose a couple pounds. And, I was one of those athletes coming in that needed to shed some weight. So I know what it's like, and I know what works. So, I'm there to as a resource, like whatever you need the diet plan, you need, you know, a race model, you need, like, what is it that you need? I'm here, but I can only give you what I know. It's up to you to apply it. Like, it's up to you to do what I'm telling you to do. I'm not going to be hounding you down to, you know, see what you ate today. Like, you have to, you know, we're all adults now. You have to kind of mature and step up to get what you want out of this sport, because not a lot of people make it out. It's a handful of people that make it from college to a professional athlete, you know. So if you want it, then you have to stand out in some way. You have to be different, you know. There's a lot of
Right.
distractions in college. I know that.
Right.
I was
Right.
distracted for a
Right.
bit, but you have to ultimately come to yourself and be like, you know, my life is bigger than this. I want more than this, you know, and I can be better. I can do more, you know, and you just have to focus in on that. It's not going to be easy because you're going to have, you know, people pulling you in all different directions, but you just have to keep that one goal in your mind. Like, this is what I want, and I'm only going to do things to get me to my goal. So if it's not helping me get there, then I'm not going to do it. So that's pretty much the mindset that I try to instill in the athletes. I mean, it just takes some time, but yeah.
Right. I want to commend you. I really do. Before I pass it on to MJ. God is over your life.
Thank you.
For you to accomplish the things that you have accomplished with losing 3 brothers, it's just man, it's just tough. But I want you to keep doing what you're doing, and I know it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And just we'll continue to pray for you,
Thank
and you
you.
continue to pray for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
And
Appreciate
I
that.
mean that sincerely. I do. You know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Uh, we did ask permission beforehand, so I don't want people to just to think they were those people that made Dezerea go down there and relive some of this. But I seen a quote from I think my boy Eric Thomas, man. You know, he's one of the ones out there as far as motivational speaking. Half of success is just outlasting the pain. That's one of his quotes out there, and I think Dezerea can agree with that. And today, actually, after we, you know, later on, about a couple hours after we finish this, I'm putting on Black Athletes United, but we got an event, Hotline Over Homicide. So we trying to stop the gun violence, and I know Dezerea can firsthand be one of those athletes that had to perform, you know, with some heavy stuff on her heart, with some trauma and things like that. But I think your story is so impactful that, you know, telling this about just, you know, what it was like losing your 2 brothers at really the peak of your career to go professional and to win, you know, pivotal races, and just what do you think needs to be done to just stop the nonsense and things like that that happens. It happens all over Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee, Oakland, you know, there's just so many places. What do you think, you know, what's your take on that?
Yeah. I'm going to answer your first question first. Like what was it like?
Yeah.
So, up until that point, me losing my brother Antoine, I had never experienced a death, you know, in a family, somebody so close. I mean, you hear, you know, older people and, you know, people that, you know, get sick or whatever, but something that was, you know, so unexpected. You know, I would never, ever forget the day that I got the phone call. You know, I was at the cell phone store. I think it was T-Mobile or Sprint or something, you know, buying a new phone. And, you know, my dad was blowing my phone up. And I'm like, you know, I'm not about to answer for him because, you know, he's about to get on me about how much money I'm spending on this new phone. Because I was always the type to break my phones. So I always had to buy new phones. And he always had to put money on it. So, you know, he would always get on me about, you need to stop breaking your phone. So I'm like ignoring his call, and he's calling and calling. I'm just ignoring it. I'm like, I'll talk to him later, you know. But when my mama started calling me, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna answer the phone for mommy. Like, you know, I don't ignore mommy. So I pick up the phone, and I'm at the store with my teammate, and you know, she tell me the news, and I'm just like, really stunned me. Like I was so broken. I'm like, what? And I just remember bawling, breaking down right in the I think it was Sprint or T-Mobile, one of them, right in the store. And a teammate come running over. She's like, what's going on? Like, and we just left. It was definitely tough. It was really like some of the hardest times of my life. I was at Clemson, away from family, pretty much left to deal with it all by myself. I didn't have the comfort of being around family. That's what I mean by that. I had my teammates, I had my coaches, but they don't really, it's ultimately from the coaches, like it's a business. I care about you. I love you. I'm going to be checking on you, but at the end of the day, it's like performance, So it was tough. I found myself going in the wrong direction initially. I started partying more. I was already partying, but partying way more. I started drinking a lot more. I just started doing things to try to, suppress, cover up that pain. But one thing I had to do is I had to use my sport, as that outlet. I had to put all my aggression, my anger, sadness, and all that on the track, And what I say all the time is like, people deal with stuff differently, like I dealt with it. I had the opportunity to deal with it through my career, but other people in my family, they dealt with it differently. They didn't really have that other outlet besides, I'm going to drink, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, So it was definitely tough. And then 8 months later, my other brother, Steve, got shot and killed. Same thing. I'm coming from a party. I had a long weekend from like recruiting. And my dad is like calling me at like 3 a.m. But my dad always worked the night shift. So he would randomly call me sometimes, like, what you doing? So this particular time, I'm like, I'm not answering. And then the same thing was happening. He was constantly calling. And I'm just like, okay, something's not right. I answered that one, and, he tells me, like, they were at a party. Steve got shot. He in surgery now. He'll be okay. They said he's good. So I'm just like, all right, call me back and let me know. I'm glad he's okay. Not lying to you. Maybe like 15, 20 minutes later, he called back and like, he's dead. And I'm like, what? Like, you just told me that. And he's just like, I know, like, they said there was nothing they can do. So I'm just like, okay, I'm here with all these recruits. I'm one of the hosts for all these sprinters that's coming in. I had to go home. I had to fly home. So it was tough. My coaches, everybody was just like distraught. It's like, again? Like, you literally just 8 months ago, like, again. And I'm not talking like these are blood. This is family, blood. Yeah. It's not like, oh, some people I know from, back in, like, no, this is like, I grew up as a child. Like, these are the people that protected me, So it was tough. It was tough. And I just literally had to use that motivation, use track as I'm going to get out of, I don't want to go back to the city. That's one thing I knew. Once I got out, I'm like, that's not for me, I had to find another way. So the gun violence situation, it's a huge issue. And I'm not only saying it just because I lost 2 brothers to gun violence. It's an issue. And it's tough in Milwaukee. Like you said, Milwaukee, Detroit, Chicago. Oh my gosh, I just feel like people need guidance. Like, people need to know that it's other stuff out here. It's, for me, it's more of when you are in an environment, you grow up in this environment, this is all you know. I was fortunate to get, like, we were fortunate to get out and experience something, a new life, something different. But you have a lot of people, a lot of kids that don't really get that. You know, they're in this environment. They think that this is all that it is to life. People, people need guidance. People need, like, encouragement. People need, people to, take them under their wing and, literally help them through life, because you see, a lot of fathers are absent in, the kids' lives. You see a lot of, it's just a lot going on, and it's tough for a kid. It's tough for a kid to, not have a father or not have a mom or not even have any, so it's a lot of emotional stress. It's a lot of, so, like I said before, people use it in different ways. People react differently to certain situations. But it's definitely something that has been on my heart, especially losing the second brother to gun violence. I have been looking up organizations that I could link up with to sponsor or to be involved with, because it's such a big issue. And people don't realize, like, you are literally taking another human being's life. Like, we're all important. We all have our role on this earth, and you are taking a life of somebody, and they have family, they have people that love them. So it's definitely a huge issue. And I'm always willing to give back to my community, because I'm just that type of person. Like, I'm that type of person that wants to see better, wants to, for especially where I grew up. It's like, come on, y'all, like, it's a whole new world. It's a whole bigger and different world outside of what you know. So, I mean, it's an issue, and I am definitely willing to work with, if you guys are a part of that gun violence situation. I'm definitely, and it's funny because I was praying about, like, I want to do something, because it's really getting ridiculous. It's getting worse and worse, and it's just going to keep getting worse. Starting some type of, like you were saying, like your father was saying, like, he did his best to kind of keep you guys occupied with other stuff. So, like, what is it that we can create to get kids into certain activities or mentorship programs that are molding and shaping them to be better than what they see around them? It's like, if we never come together, if we never create something, then they're just going to go to what they know, like it's been. And it's, for me, it's better, like, it doesn't matter if it's one life or two lives that you save. You're saving people, So, I mean, like I said, I appreciate this. Like, this is awesome. Like, but if you guys ever need help with going further with it, or going, doing something else, I'm all for it, because I'm always here to help the inner city kids. I have a heart for it, because I see the stress and the just, even when I go back to Milwaukee, I don't even like to go home like that, because I'm like, my parents still live in the hood and ain't nothing changed, So it's like, am I going to put myself in this situation, to possibly, you can be in the wrong place at the wrong, whatever it may be. But when I go home, it's a whole different spirit. It's a whole different vibe that I experience just going into the city. Like, and I feel my husband, his first time going to Milwaukee was in March, when we went to my brother's funeral. And he was just like, yeah, this feels different. So I'm all for helping. Yeah. Yes.
Just the strength and the way you just talk about it, and the compassion that you have just to continue to help others, even though your personal, situation wasn't the best. Strength to your family's blessing to your family. And it's no doubt in my mind that something's going to happen. We link up. So
Yes, sir.
We're gonna do something. But it's a couple things, like, hey, if you're a coach and you listening to this podcast right now, don't wait for that athlete to come to you and reach out to you for help. Do some initiative, do something that lets them know that you care and you're in their corner, and that they got the support of you, so that it takes away, like Dezerea said, that business like feeling. Make it personal. Like I said it. I'm pretty sure Dezerea has said it. I'm pretty sure Money's gonna say when he's coaching, I treat your child like I treat my own when they come on recruitment visits. Well, actually do that. Follow through with them words and treat that person like you would treat your own. And one of the things we're doing with the hotline over homicide is definitely bit J. Cole new song. So I'm nothing innovative over here. Once again, so we took that, but we definitely are doing the group, the BAU. If somebody have been affected by gun violence or they thinking about pulling the trigger or just anything, we have holding the hotline just so you can call. It's people that's personable, people like Dez that been through what you're going through, from the community that you're from, and you can build a relationship with to talk to people like that. So, that's just some stuff we can do, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more to come about it. So moving forward, though, full circle, I'm pretty sure your faith has grown throughout all this stuff. So talk about, in the last couple of minutes, talk about God and just the amazing impact he has had on you.
Yeah, man. I didn't grow up in a church. I didn't grow up, as a Christian. My walk with Christ started in college. I had to start doing things on my own. I had to find my purpose in life and what I was going to choose to believe in. But yeah, it's definitely grown tremendously. I gave my life to Christ. I think my sophomore year in college, and I wasn't perfect. I didn't start off I wasn't like this holy, righteous individual. I still did my dirt, but I allowed God to come into my heart and come into my life and teach me and to guide me and lead me in the way that I should go. It's being like believing in Jesus and being a Christian is not just, when I'm a Christian, now I'm changed, like right from the jump. Like it's a process, it's a journey. But it literally has been the best decision that I have ever made in my entire life. And mine stemmed from, all the violence and stuff that I experienced, when my brother's dying and all that. Like that's pretty much what motivated me to find something bigger and better, like bigger than me. So yeah, man, God has definitely been good to me. It's just been an amazing journey. And like I said before, the best decision that I've ever made. I'm seeing my life and my faith continue to grow day to day, year to year. And he has definitely kept me and have protected me and provided for me and all that. He's made ways for me and literally has had his hand on my life since I was a kid. I can just look back from situations where, I could have been, my life could have been completely different.
Yeah.
But he didn't allow that. And I'm like forever grateful for that. I literally say this all the time. Like I'm far from perfect and I don't judge nobody because I've been there and I've done a lot in my life, but it's just been amazing. I'm telling you, it's great.
That's good. Yes, I know Money was raised in church. I was raised in the church, and I know throughout, just maturing, that's the battle that, as youngsters, we gotta submit to him eventually. He'll bring us to our knees. So I'm glad that you are in this walk, and I'm just seeing what it's doing for you, and things like that. So so much Dezerea has shared that I hope if you had your listening ears on, you couldn't miss the heart. Like it had to hit home, and it had to make you not only feel for her, but be a supporter of where she's going in her journey, and things like that. So I'm gonna pass it to my boy Money just to wrap it up, and then I know he's gonna pass it to Des to do the Listen Son message.
Hey, like Mike said, everybody, hope y'all had your listening ears on. We had some great stuff that went on. So yeah, as we encourage y'all still to like, subscribe, share, pass it to the Des. She's gonna give us our Listen Son or Listen Children segment there. We're gonna wrap it up there.
Okay. Listen, little brothers and sisters, I just want to let you know and encourage you to always understand and recognize that you are loved, and that you can accomplish literally whatever you put your mind to. there's nothing that you can't do. There's no limits to your life. And if you just stay the course, I know sometimes life get hard, but if you just stay the course and stick with God, he'll be sure to repay you. So thank you for having me.
Thanks once again, my fraternity and sorority of listeners of Listen Son podcast. Please, women and men, please like, subscribe, and share. Continue to support our goals to connect untold special real life stories.